Listen, I need you to understand something right from the start. When you are a Victorian diplomat with 7 academic honors and a spotless career spanning 3 decades, you do not expect to die on some backwater space station because your idiot cousin could not keep his manipulator appendages to himself. But here we are. My name is Throlven and I am currently watching my entire life flash before my optical sensors while a human female with muscles that could crush steel girders stares at my cousin Drex like he is already dead. Which, spoiler alert, he absolutely is. Let me back up. 6 hours earlier, I was having a perfectly pleasant solar cycle on Transit Station Meridian 9 sipping fermented quilp juice and reviewing trade agreements. Boring? Yes. Safe? Also yes. Then my cousin Drex arrives on his personal shuttle, all swagger and terrible decision-making skills wrapped up in 2 meters of scaled stupidity. Throw! He bellowed, his voice carrying across the station plaza like a plasma alarm. Cousin, I have arrived. No kidding, genius. Everyone within 3 sectors probably heard your ship's obnoxiously loud engines. Drex is what we call in the Victorian hierarchy a political liability with legs. His father, my uncle Grex Core, is the High Chancellor of our colony world, which means Drex has spent his entire life getting away with behavior that would get anyone else spaced without a suit. He is arrogant, he is entitled, and he has the survival instincts of a drugged mollusk. What are you doing here? I asked, already feeling the onset of a stress-induced headache forming behind my sensory ridge. Father sent me to observe the human integration protocols, Drex announced, puffing out his chest scales. He says I need more diplomatic experience before taking on a council position. I nearly choked on my quilp juice. Drex? Diplomatic experience? That is like giving a plasma torch to a child and calling it fire safety training. The humans have been part of the Galactic Coalition for only 4 cycles, I explained slowly, as if talking to a juvenile. They are still adapting to our customs, and we are adapting to theirs. This requires tact, understanding, and above all, respect. Drex waved a dismissive claw. Pop! Humans! I have read the reports. Primitive deathworlders who somehow stumbled into space travel. How dangerous could they possibly be? Oh, you beautiful fool. See, here is what the official reports do not tell you about humans. Sure, they mention that Earth is a Class 12 deathworld, meaning nearly everything on their planet is actively trying to kill them at all times. Yes, they note that humans have redundant organ systems, rapid healing capabilities, and bone density that makes them walking biological tanks. The reports even mention their disturbing tendency to pack bond with literally anything, including species that want to eat them. But what the reports do not adequately convey is this. Humans are absolutely insane, and they will make you regret every decision that led to antagonizing them. I tried to explain this to Drex. I really did, cousin. You need to understand, I said, pulling up my datapad. Humans have something they call a military. Not a defense force, not a security contingent. A military. They have been fighting wars against each other for their entire recorded history. They have weapons that can crack planets, and they invented most of them before they even achieved faster-than-light travel. Drex snorted. Sounds like propaganda to make us afraid of them. It is not propaganda. Last cycle, a human merchant stopped a Krell pirate raid single-handedly using nothing but a cargo loader and what she called applied physics. The Krell are still filing trauma counseling claims. You worry too much, Thro. I will show you how to handle these humans properly. With authority and strength, as befits our superior culture. I should have stunned him right there and shipped him back to our homeworld. Would have saved everyone a lot of trouble. But no, I am a professional, so I decided to keep a close optical sensor on him, and pray to the celestial void that he would not do anything catastrophically stupid. Narrator voice. He absolutely did something catastrophically stupid. We were walking through the main commerce district, an area where dozens of species mingled, traded, and generally tried not to start interstellar incidents. The humans had set up a small cultural exchange booth, displaying items from Earth, primitive but fascinating stuff, books made from actual tree pulp, fermented grain beverages, and something called hot sauce that came with a medical disclaimer in 17 languages. That is when I saw her. The human was tall by their species standards, probably around 1.8 meters, with dark skin and hair cropped so short I could see her scalp. She wore what I later learned was a U.S. Marine Corps uniform, complete with various insignias that meant absolutely nothing to me at the time but apparently translated to do not even think about testing me. Her name tag read Jenkins. She was arranging items on the display table with precise, economical movements. Everything about her posture screamed discipline and barely restrained violence. This was not someone who worked in cultural exchange because she enjoyed peaceful diplomatic relations. This was someone who had been ordered to do cultural exchange and was grimly determined to complete her mission without incident. Look at that one, Drex murmured. his voice taking on a tone I immediately recognized as trouble with a capital T. So small, so fragile looking. Drex, no. So inferior. Drex, I am warning you. I should demonstrate proper hierarchy. Show these humans their place in the galactic order. Drex, I swear by the celestial void, if you do what I think you are about to do, I will personally testify against you at your trial. But he was already moving, striding toward the human booth with all the confidence of someone who has never faced consequences for their actions. I scrambled after him, my career flashing before my sensors like a distress beacon. Drex walked right up to Marine Jenkins, looming over her with his full height. She looked up slowly, her face expressionless, her eyes the color of Earth's storms. Human, Drex announced loudly, ensuring everyone in the vicinity could hear. Your display is blocking the proper flow of foot traffic. Move it. Jenkins' expression did not change. Sir, this booth has been approved by station administration. If you have a complaint, you can file it at the Commerce office on level 3. Her voice was calm, professional, absolutely terrifying in its control. Drex's scales ruffled with irritation. I am not filing anything. I am telling you to move. Now, I am unable to comply with that order, sir. Oh no. Oh no, no. No. I could see where this was going, like watching a plasma core breach in slow motion. Drex leaned closer, his breath probably reeking of the spiced meat he had consumed earlier. Perhaps you do not understand your position here, little human. We Vexorians are a first contact species. We have been among the stars for over 2,000 cycles. Your kind has barely left their planetary nursery. When I give an order, you follow it. Something flickered in Jenkins' eyes. Not fear, not anger. Something colder, more calculated. Sir, I am going to need you to step back. Or what? Drex laughed, a sound like grinding gears. What will you do, primitive? Then he made the fatal mistake. He reached out and slapped her. Not a full force blow, mind you. Just a dismissive backhanded strike across her face, the kind of casual violence that Drex probably thought would put her in her place, make her understand the natural order of things. The sound echoed through the Commerce District like a gunshot. Time seemed to stop. Jenkins' head had barely moved from the impact. She slowly turned her face back to look at Drex straight on. A thin line of blue-green blood, human blood, trickled from the corner of her mouth. Her expression still had not changed. Sir, she said quietly, her voice somehow carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent plaza. You just made a serious mistake. Drex opened his mouth, probably to say something else monumentally stupid, but I was already moving, trying to grab his arm, trying to pull him away, trying to salvage what was rapidly becoming a diplomatic nightmare of historic proportions. Cousin, we need to leave right now. But Drex shook me off. She is just one small human throw. What is she going to do? Jenkins wiped the blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. She looked at it for a moment, then back at Drex. You know what? She said, and I swear I heard something like satisfaction in her voice. I have been on this station for 6 months. 6 months of cultural sensitivity training. 6 months of diplomatic protocols. 6 months of being told to smile and represent Earth positively. She rolled her shoulders, and I heard joints pop in a way that made my scales itch. 6 months of keeping my hands to myself. Oh, celestial void, but you just assaulted a United States Marine in public. She smiled, and it was the most frightening thing I had ever seen. All teeth, no warmth. Pure predator. And baby, you just freed me from my diplomatic obligation. What happened next took approximately 3 seconds. I know this because station security footage later showed me the timestamp. 3 seconds that ended a life, a career, and my naive belief that anything in this universe made sense anymore. Second one. Jenkins moved. I did not even see her first strike. One moment she was standing at her booth, the next her fist was buried in Drex's thorax, with enough force that I heard his chest plates crack like dropped ceramics. Drex's eyes went wide, his mouth opening in shock as he tried to process how something so small could hit so hard. Second two. The follow-up. Jenkins pivoted, her other hand coming up in what I later learned was called an uppercut. It caught Drex under his jaw ridge with surgical precision, snapping his head back. I heard vertebrae separate, actual vertebrae, breaking, from a Second three. The finish. As Drex's body began to fall, Jenkins spun in a move that seemed to defy physics and gravity simultaneously. Her leg came around in a devastating arc, her boot connecting with the side of Drex's skull with a sound like a hammer striking wet stone. My cousin dropped like a cargo container cut from its moorings. He hit the deck plates and did not move, did not twitch, did not breathe. Jenkins stood over him, breathing slightly elevated but otherwise showing no signs of exertion. She looked down at Drex's body the way someone might look at a mild inconvenience that had finally been resolved. The entire commerce district was silent. Dozens of species, hundreds of beings, all staring in absolute shock at what they had just witnessed. Jenkins calmly reached down, picked up a cloth from her display table and wiped Drex's bodily fluids off her knuckles. Then she looked directly at me. "Your cousin just learned an important lesson about Earth," she said, her voice carrying clearly in the stunned silence. "We do not start fights." She dropped the cloth onto Drex's body, "but we sure as hell finish them." That was when station security finally arrived, along with what seemed like every human on Meridian 9. Turns out when you assault a Marine, their friends show up. And they brought what appeared to be the entire human military contingent stationed on the facility. I have never seen so many humans in one place before. It was like watching a pack of apex predators converge. They were not overtly threatening, but the message was crystal clear: one of theirs had been attacked, and they were ready for this situation to escalate. It did not, thankfully. Mostly because my cousin was very thoroughly dead. The human commander, a grizzled man named Colonel Marcus Webb, arrived and assessed the situation with quick efficiency. He looked at Jenkins, looked at Drex's body, then looked at me. "Your associate struck my Marine?" he asked, his voice gravelly and tired. "Yes," I admitted, because what else could I say? "He did." Webb nodded slowly. Jenkins, report. "Sir, the deceased struck me across the face without provocation or warning. After I declined to follow his illegal order to move an authorized cultural display, I responded with appropriate defensive force. Sir, I may have gotten some of his fluids on the station deck. I apologize for the mess." Webb looked at her for a long moment, then at Drex's very dead body, then back at her. "Jenkins, that was not defensive force. That was offensive termination." "Yes, sir. You killed him in 3 seconds. 3.2 seconds, sir. I am a little rusty." Webb's mouth twitched. I think he was trying not to smile. "You are aware this is going to create an interstellar incident?" "Yes, sir. Worth it." And that, my friends, is how I found myself 6 hours later in a station security office, watching my career evaporate like water on a hot engine, while trying to explain to my uncle via subspace transmission why his son was currently residing in the station morgue. The transmission quality was excellent, which meant I could see every detail of my uncle's face cycling through shock, rage, grief, and then settling on something far more dangerous: cold calculation. "Throlven," he said, his voice like ice over steel. "You allowed my son to be murdered." "Uncle, I tried to stop him. He would not listen. He struck a human military officer in public. The station footage clearly shows. I do not care about footage. I care that my son is dead at the hands of a primitive death worlder, and you stood by and did nothing." "There was nothing I could do. It happened in 3 seconds." My uncle leaned forward, his image filling my screen. "Then hear me clearly, nephew. I am calling an emergency session of the High Council. I am demanding that the Galactic Coalition charge this human with murder and hand her over to us for justice. And if they refuse, I am prepared to withdraw our entire membership and backing from the Coalition." My blood ran cold. "Uncle, you cannot be serious. The economic implications alone." "My son is dead, Throlven. There will be consequences. I will have my justice, even if I have to tear apart the Coalition to get it." The transmission ended, leaving me staring at a blank screen and contemplating how spectacularly everything had gone wrong. Outside the security office window, I could see Jenkins being debriefed by her command staff. She looked calm, professional, utterly unbothered by the fact that she had just killed someone and potentially started an interstellar crisis. Humans, I was beginning to understand, operated on a completely different set of rules than the rest of us, and I was about to learn just how different those rules really were. So there I was, sitting in a conference room that smelled faintly of recycled air and human coffee, which I am told is a mild stimulant for them, but smells like burnt industrial lubricant to my olfactory sensors. Across from me sat 3 humans who were about to explain why my entire species had made a catastrophic miscalculation. Colonel Marcus Webb, the grizzled military commander I mentioned earlier, Ambassador Patricia Okonkwo, a human diplomat who radiated the kind of dangerous competence that made me nervous, and Captain fucking Jenkins herself, sitting there with a bandage on her lip and absolutely zero regret in her eyes. "Mr. Throlven," Ambassador Okonkwo began, her voice smooth as processed titanium. "We understand your uncle is making some rather serious demands." "Demands?" I laughed, though it came out more like a nervous chirp. "He is threatening to pull the entire Vixorian sector out of the Coalition unless Jenkins is turned over for execution. He has the political backing to do it too. This is a nightmare." Webb leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. "Let me tell you a story, Mr. Throlven. About 30 years ago, back on Earth, There was this bar outside a Marine base in a place called California. Local tough guy walked in, started hassling one of our female Marines, grabbed her inappropriately. You know what happened? I shook my head, though I had a sinking feeling I knew where this was going. She broke his arm in 2 places, fractured his jaw, and ruptured his spleen. All in the time it took his brain to register he had made a mistake. You know what happened to her? She was arrested? I guessed hopefully. Webb smiled. She got a warning about excessive force and a notation in her file. The tough guy got charged with assault. Because here is the thing about Marines, about humans in general really. We have this concept called proportional response. You touch one of ours without permission, you get touched back. Harder. But your Marine killed my cousin. Your cousin struck a United States Marine Corps service member in the face hard enough to draw blood. Okonkwo interjected smoothly. In human culture and military culture specifically, that is considered an act of war on a personal level. Jenkins responded with the training we gave her, training that cost Earth taxpayers approximately 400,000 credits per Marine. She slid a datapad across the table to me. This is the official incident report. Note the timestamps. Note the witness statements. All 47 of them. From 12 different species. Every single one confirms that your cousin initiated physical violence against a service member who was engaged in peaceful diplomatic duties. I looked at the datapad, my heart sinking with each statement I read. They were all identical in their core facts. Drex had been aggressive, dismissive, and then violent. Jenkins had responded in self-defense. Self-defense that had been lethal. Sure, but self-defense nonetheless. My uncle will never accept this, I said quietly. In Vexorian culture, taking a life demands blood recompense. He will push the council to sanction Earth, possibly even authorize military retaliation. The 3 humans exchanged glances. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication that made my scales itch with apprehension. Mr. Thrillven, Okonkwo said carefully. How much do you actually know about human military capabilities? I know the reports. Class 12 Death World. Aggressive species. Significant ground combat experience. Your ships are adequate. Your weapons functional. You are a developing military power, but nothing compared to the established coalition fleets. Webb made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. Jenkins, show him the thing. Jenkins pulled out her personal datapad and brought up what looked like a tactical display. This is the USSC Thermopylae, one of our newer destroyers. Length, 400 meters. Crew complement, 230. Standard armament. She expanded the image, and I felt my blood temperature drop several degrees. 24 missile tubes loaded with nuclear-tipped kinetic penetrators. 8 railgun batteries capable of firing depleted uranium slugs at 0.05% light speed. 4 plasma lance arrays. And this. She highlighted a section near the ship's bottom. A gravitational shear projector that can create localized space-time distortions. That is, I swallowed hard. That is enough firepower to crack a small moon. That is 1 destroyer. Mr. Thrallven. We have 67 of them currently in service with another 30 under construction. Would you like to see our dreadnought specifications? I did not want to see their dreadnought specifications. I very much did not want to see their dreadnought specifications, but she showed me anyway. The USSC Enterprise, humanity's first true dreadnought, was less a ship and more a mobile war crime. It massed 4 million tons, carried enough firepower to sterilize a planet, and apparently had something called a stellar compression cannon that I did not even want to understand the physics of. How? I managed to croak out. How does the coalition not know about this? Oh, they know, Okonkwo said with a slight smile. The Security Council knows. They just have not shared that information with the general membership. Earth has been very quiet about our military expansion. We figured it was better to be underestimated. But why? Why build all this? Webb leaned forward, his eyes hard. Because we learned a long time ago that peace is maintained through strength. Because we looked out at the galaxy and saw species that had never known real war, never faced existential threats, never had to fight for survival every single day of their evolution, and we realized that someday someone was going to threaten humanity. When that day comes, we plan to be ready. He stood up, walking to the window overlooking the station's main docking bay. Your uncle wants to go to war over his son's death. That is his right as a father. I can even respect it. But he needs to understand what he would be starting. 17 billion humans, Mr. Thrillven, Okonkwo added. Spread across 43 colony worlds, and 11 major space stations. Every single one of them raised on stories of underdog victories, of fighting against impossible odds, of never surrendering even when defeat seems certain. Your uncle thinks he is threatening a developing species, What he is actually threatening is a civilization that considers war a legitimate problem-solving tool. I felt sick. You would go to war over one Marine? We have gone to war over less, Webb said flatly. In our history, entire conflicts have started because someone shot the wrong person. We once fought a war that killed 50 million people because of an assassination. Another war killed over 60 million because of territorial disputes. We are very good at war, Mr. Throwven. Disturbingly good. It is kind of our thing. Jenkins spoke up for the first time in a while. Sir, permission to speak freely? Granted. I do not want a war to start because I defended myself. If it would prevent conflict, I will accept whatever punishment the Vexorians demand. The room went silent. Webb turned from the window, his expression unreadable. Jenkins, that is remarkably selfless and incredibly stupid. You did nothing wrong. You followed your training, defended yourself against assault, and eliminated a threat. No Marine under my command will be sacrificed to appease some alien politician's grief. But sir, the consequences are not your problem. That is what diplomats and politicians are for. He looked at Okonkwo. Make this go away. The ambassador smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Already working on it, Colonel. Mr. Throwven, I need you to carry a message to your uncle. Can you do that? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Tell him this. Earth extends its condolences for his loss. We understand his grief. However, Marine Captain Angela Jenkins acted in lawful self-defense against an unprovoked assault. She will not be surrendered. She will not be punished. If the Vexorian government wishes to pursue this matter, we are prepared to present our case before the Galactic Court of Justice, where I am confident the ruling will favor Earth. She paused, letting that sink in. Furthermore, tell him that any attempt to sanction, blockade, or take military action against Earth or its interests will be considered an act of war. And unlike his son, Earth does not make threats we are not prepared to follow through on. He will never back down, I protested. You do not understand Vexorian honor culture. His son's death demands satisfaction. Then help me understand, Okonkwo said, her tone shifting to something almost gentle. Explain your honor culture to me. I took a deep breath, trying to organize my thoughts. In our society, bloodlines are everything. Lineage determines status, opportunity, future prospects. When someone from a powerful bloodline is killed, especially the heir of a high chancellor, it is not just personal, it is political. My uncle's entire standing in the council depends on how he responds to this. If he appears weak, if he allows his son's death to go unavenged, he loses everything. So it is not really about justice, Okonkwo mused. It is about appearances, about maintaining power. Is that not the same thing in your culture? Sometimes, she admitted. But we also have a saying, do not start fights you cannot win. Your uncle needs an exit ramp, a way to save face without going to war. So let us give him one. She pulled up a holographic display showing various legal documents and precedents. Here is what we propose, a formal inquiry conducted by a neutral third party. Let us say the Thalaxian Judicial Council. They review the evidence, interview witnesses, and make a determination about the legality of Jenkins' actions. The Thalaxians are notorious for their lengthy proceedings, I said slowly, beginning to understand. Such an inquiry could take cycles. Exactly. And during that time everyone gets to cool down. Your uncle can tell his counsel that he is pursuing justice through proper channels. Jenkins remains in human custody pending the inquiry, and when the Thalaxians inevitably rule that she acted in self-defense, which they will because the evidence is overwhelming, your uncle can accept the ruling with dignity. You are giving him political cover, I realized. A way to back down without losing face. We are giving everyone a way out of a stupid situation that never should have happened in the first place. Webb growled. Your cousin was an idiot who learned a hard lesson. I am sorry he died. Genuinely. But I will be damned if I let his stupidity drag two civilizations into a war. I sat there for a long moment, processing everything. The humans had outmaneuvered us completely. They had the evidence, the legal precedent, the military capability to back up their position, and now they were offering a diplomatic solution that would allow my uncle to save face. They had thought of everything. You planned this, I said suddenly. All of this. You knew something like this might happen eventually. Okonkwo's expression did not change. We have contingency plans for most scenarios, yes. Humans can be optimistic, but we are not naive. We knew that eventually someone would test us. Better to be prepared. And if my uncle refuses, if he demands war anyway. Webb walked back to the table and placed both hands on its surface, leaning forward until his face was level with mine. Then we will give him a war, Mr. Thrillvan. And 3 generations from now, Vexorian parents will tell their children scary stories about the time their people poked the humans and learned why you do not start fights with Deathworlders. The scary part was, I believed him. I left the conference room in a daze and spent the next several hours crafting a subspace message to my uncle that somehow conveyed both the human's offer and the absolutely terrifying reality of what would happen if he refused. I chose my words carefully, emphasizing the honor in accepting a neutral judicial review, the wisdom of avoiding rash decisions in times of grief. His response took 2 hours to arrive. 2 hours during which I consumed an entire bottle of fermented kelp juice and contemplated career changes. When his face appeared on my screen, he looked older somehow. Tired. Thrillvan. I have reviewed your message. I have also received communications from several other council members who have apparently been contacted by human diplomats. They all say the same thing. Accept the inquiry, save face, move on. Uncle, I believe it is the right path. Justice will still be served, but through proper channels. He was quiet for a long moment. Tell me, nephew. This human who killed my son. Do you think she regrets it? I thought about Jenkins sitting in that conference room, her face calm, her voice steady. No, uncle, I do not think she regrets defending herself, but I do think she regrets that it came to that. And if I demand war, if I push the council to authorize retaliation, then thousands will die, uncle. Maybe more, and at the end of it, you will still have lost your son, but you will have lost much more besides. Another long silence. When he spoke again, his voice was hollow. Drex was my only child, Thrillvan, my heir, my legacy. And he died because he was too arrogant to understand that the universe does not care about our pride. I know, uncle. I am sorry. So am I, nephew. So am I. He straightened slightly, some of his old authority returning. I will accept the inquiry. I will abide by the Thalaxian ruling, whatever it may be. But I want you to deliver a message to that human marine for me. Of course, tell her that my son's death was his own fault. Tell her that I do not hold her responsible for defending herself against an aggressor. And tell her, his voice cracked slightly. Tell her that I hope she lives a long life because my son will not, and someone should benefit from the lesson his death has taught. The transmission ended and I found myself staring at the blank screen with tears running down my face. 3 days later, I stood in the station's diplomatic wing as the Thalaxian Judicial Council officially opened their inquiry. It would take months, possibly years, but everyone knew the outcome. Jenkins had acted in self-defense. The evidence was overwhelming. I saw her in the corridor afterward, surrounded by other Marines who clapped her shoulders and made jokes I did not quite understand. She caught my eye and walked over. Mr. Thrillvan, how is your uncle? Grieving, but he has accepted the inquiry. There will be no war. Good. I meant what I said in that conference room. I did not want people to die because of me. I studied her for a moment, this human who had killed my cousin in 3 seconds and potentially prevented a war through the same action. Captain Jenkins, may I ask you a question? Sure. Do you think about it? About killing him? She was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. Every day, I have trained my entire adult life to be ready for combat. But taking a life, even in self-defense, even when justified, that stays with you. Yeah, I think about it, but you do not regret it? I regret that it happened. I regret that your cousin made the choices he made. But defending myself? No, I do not regret that. I will never regret that. She extended her hand, a human gesture of peace I had learned about. I took it carefully, feeling the strength in her grip. Your uncle sent me a message through official channels, she said. Told me his son's death was his own fault. That took guts. Please tell him I am sorry for his loss, even if I am not sorry for surviving. I will. We stood there for another moment, representative of 2 species that had almost gone to war, connected by tragedy and the strange mercy of mutual understanding. Captain Jenkins, I said finally, I hope humanity finds a place in the galaxy. A good place. Because I think the rest of us need you more than we realize. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. We are not going anywhere, Mr. Thrillvan. For better or worse, you are stuck with us. As I watched her walk away, rejoining her fellow Marines with their loud voices and easy camaraderie, I realized something profound. The galaxy had spent thousands of cycles developing rules of engagement, diplomatic protocol, honor codes that prioritize status and lineage over action and consequence. Then humanity showed up and said, quite simply, hit us, we hit back harder. It was crude. It was violent. It was absolutely terrifying. It was also I was beginning to understand exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months later, the Thalaxian Judicial Council ruled that Jenkins had acted in lawful self-defense. My uncle accepted the ruling with dignity. The Victorian High Council issued a formal statement about respecting personal boundaries and the rights of all species to defend themselves. And Jenkins? She got promoted to major and assigned to a new diplomatic posting, because apparently the human military decided that someone who could prevent a war by winning a fight in 3 seconds was exactly the kind of diplomat they needed. The galaxy has not been the same since humans joined the coalition. We thought we were welcoming a young species that needed guidance and protection. What we actually got was a civilization of barely controlled chaos that treats every problem like a nail and every solution like a hammer. But you know what? When pirates attacked a civilian convoy last month, the distress call was answered by a human patrol ship that arrived in 40 minutes and resolved the situation in less than 10. When a plague broke out on a Thalaxian colony world, human medical teams were the first to arrive and the last to leave, working around the clock for 6 weeks straight until every patient was stable. When the Krell Empire started making noises about reclaiming disputed territories, one human dreadnought parked in orbit and the Krells suddenly remembered they had pressing business elsewhere. We spent thousands of cycles building a civilization based on status, lineage, and complicated honor codes. Humans showed up and said, "Be decent to each other, or we will make you regret it." I think that is going to work out just fine. My name is Thrall then, and I survived the day my idiot cousin learned why you do not slap a United States Marine. Trust me when I tell you, there are easier lessons to learn.